Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the Nutrition 101 series. So if you guys have been following along on this series, that is awesome. We have covered some great topics so far in this series, and today I'm going to be talking all about calories. I feel like calories are typically viewed in a negative light. They are seen as something that we can kind of manipulate, or they are seen as, just a tool that we can control and restrict in order to, get a certain weight or body weight or a certain body type or body composition. But that is certainly not all they do, and in this video I'm going to explain exactly what calories are, what their function and purpose is, because as I said before, I think it is so important to understand the biology or the functions behind certain things in nutrition and in our bodies, because the more that we understand things, the more we know about them and how they work, the more that we can respect them. So what are calories? Calorie is actually a term that is used loosely. When we say calorie, we are actually referring to what is called a kilocalorie, kind of like a kilogram. And the technical definition of a kilocalorie is the energy required to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of water 1 degree Celsius at normal atmospheric pressure. Woo, a lot of science, right? That's because kilocalories are a unit of energy. It is something that is, scientific. So when we look at food specifically and the energy that is in food, there are, 3 different types of food, 3 different macronutrients: carbohydrates, protein, and fat. So carbohydrates and protein both have 4 calories per gram, and then fat has 9 calories per gram. So what happens when we eat food, whether that's carbohydrates, protein, or fat, or a mix of all 3, we are bringing that food in, bringing those calories in. We will then go on to digest that food down, and then we can go on to make energy, or ATP, from that food. And just following the logic here, obviously the more calories that we are consuming and bringing into the body, the more potential we have to create energy for use within the body. Now here's the thing, our bodies are very complex and they are much smarter than we typically give them credit for. So our bodies are very protective and they're always all about survival. So when we are bringing in food, technically your body doesn't know the next time you're going to be eating. You may be headed out to lunch in a couple hours, or you already know what you're having for dinner that night, but your body doesn't know when that food is coming in. So what it does is whatever calories, whatever energy we're bringing in that we don't need at that time to burn off and use, we're just going to go ahead and store it. And how calories get stored in the body is stored as fat. So that becomes our reserves, that becomes our energy reservoir. So there are many other purposes for body fat. I did an entire Nutrition 101 video on body fat, so you can go check that out. But one of the main roles of body fat is to be an energy reservoir. So we always have reserves we can tap into when we need them, whether that's, 4 hours after having a meal and we need to have some energy, create some energy within the body, or whether that's 4 days of, not having any food, any calories, any energy coming in. We're obviously going to be tapping into those reserves. And of course, we are always in demand for some level of energy, because even if we are completely sedentary, laying on a couch or laying in bed, we are still pumping blood, we are still breathing, our eyes are moving, things are happening in the body. So even if you're not physically moving around, you are still requiring energy at all times. The level that you are requiring obviously just varies depending on how active you are in that moment. Now the hard thing about calories is we are, unfortunately, as a society, in this diet culture that we sadly live in, we have this hyper focus on calories. And even as, a nutrition student, as a dietitian, we're taught, I know the equations like the back of my hand to determine, a calorie range for XYZ client, patient, whatever. We are taught to look at calories. We are taught to think within the realm of calorie ranges and caloric requirements for different people. So it's not our fault necessarily that we are always thinking about calories and potentially counting calories and thinking of them, in the role that they play with weight gain or weight loss or weight maintenance. But I think that it has gone far too far, and that we give calories way more credit or, power or authority that they deserve. Because here's the problem. Our body's needs, specifically energy needs, are constantly fluctuating day to day, hour to hour, even minute to minute, because our activity levels are always shifting around and changing. Our stress levels, our hormones, our environment is always changing. So when you look at it that way, it's kind of silly to, pinpoint this specific number or range and say every single day this is what you should provide for your body, when that doesn't take into account what's going on in those days. Every single day is different. Our bodies are always feeling different, so there are going to be days where we require a lot more energy, or days that maybe we don't require as much because we haven't been as active or for whatever reason. But for some reason we are still sticking to this number because we think we're smarter and we think we have the answer, but really our bodies are so smart and they can tell us what we need as long as we listen to them. So to pinpoint a specific range, that is ideal for an individual based on whatever parameters, or even worse, just to pick one specific number and have someone follow that day in and day out and only provide their body with that specific level of energy regardless of what's going on outside of their body, how they're feeling that day. It just, when you really look at it that way, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Another thing with calories, like I said earlier, is I feel like they are so often just viewed as something that we should be restricting or use as a tool to manipulate how we look on the outside, instead of just simply as units of energy that allow our bodies to carry out necessary functions. And here's the thing, our bodies are not meant to be at a weight that can only be maintained through restricting calories. And we know through research that 95% of diets fail in the long term. 95%, that's like almost all of them. And that other 5% or so that has been successful in keeping it off likely has only reached that success because they've developed disordered eating patterns. So while they may be, benefiting physically, if you will, their mental health is suffering. Now, I am not denying that there are certainly individuals out there who would have improved health outcomes from losing weight. However, vast majority of those who are trying to lose weight do not fit into that category, and I feel that vast majority of those people are probably just trying to lose weight so they can have, what society deems as an acceptable weight, or what society deems as an acceptable or desirable body type. So basically that means we are left with lots and lots of people who are on this cycle of restriction that we know is proven to not work in the long term. And it's not your fault if you're on that cycle, because that is what we have been taught to do. That is what we have been told to do. We have been told to restrict in order to lose weight, but guess what? That doesn't work. It's never going to work. Bodies are not meant to be at a weight that can only be maintained, like I said, by restricting. I've said it before and I will say it again, all of this is why I am such a huge proponent of intuitive eating. I truly believe that it is not only the best way, but really the only way to lead a healthy, fulfilling lifestyle. Because by eating intuitively, we can listen to our body's ever-changing cues and we can fuel it on a daily basis with what it actually needs. And as babies, we are born with this ability, but we tend to lose it over time because, like I said, we live in a diet culture that tells us to be on this diet or restrict in this certain way in order to look this certain way, but that doesn't take into account that all of our bodies are different and they're all meant to be at different shapes and sizes because we're all built differently. And one of the most beautiful things about intuitive eating is it's not just eating, based on hunger and satiety cues. It's also eating for pleasure and enjoyment, because food is such a joy of life and it's meant to be cherished and savored and enjoyed, and it's not just a series of numbers that you are meant to add and subtract and do all this math to try and get this perfect number at the end of the day. By learning to eat intuitively and tap into those cues, and also just fueling your body with lots of healthy, wholesome, real food and moving it around, being active, that is what is going to make your body its happiest. And when you are doing all of that consistently and you get to that point, not only is it true, literally true freedom, but that is where your body is going to be its happiest. So wherever your weight lands, wherever your body composition lands, that is where you are meant to be. And wherever it does land, I hope that you love that body for all that it does, because they are truly just amazing. That is all I have for today's Nutrition 101 video. I hope that you guys not only enjoyed it, but that you learned from it. And if you have any friends or family members you think would enjoy this video, I would absolutely love for you to share it with them because, as I said, knowledge is absolutely power. Make sure to subscribe if you are enjoying my videos and have not already. And of course, you can follow me on my socials so we can hang out on there. But that is it for today's video, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.